morning, Mrs. Dupree.
Have you spoken to Danny?
Danny was blindsided by Bill and Haley's affair.
Well, so much for stop by for a cup of coffee.
Yes, I'm Tamara Tunie, and I play Anita Dupree. And my casting story, well, I was in Pittsburgh minding my business doing a little play called POTUS at Pittsburgh City Theater, which is a little plug because I serve on the board of directors. And I got a phone call from my agent and manager, and generally when they call me together, something's up. And so, so I answered the call, and they said, well, we have this offer. It's for the new daytime soap opera. It's going to shoot in Atlanta. It's a predominantly black cast. You've been offered the role of Anita Dupree, who is the matriarch of the family. It shoots in Atlanta. We don't know. What do you think? And as I have said, I never really considered going back to daytime television, but they sent me the first 2 scripts and also a lovely note from Michelle Valjean, who is our head writer, expressing her dream of me playing this role, which was extremely sweet. So I read it, and then I said, well, let me jump on a call with Sheila Ducksworth, who is our executive producer, whose brainchild this is, and Michelle, and hear more about the show, more about the character, and also because I do a lot of directing these days, and I've been developing projects that were on my calendar from now until May, or from October until May, was there the opportunity to work around that, because I just couldn't walk away. So I got on a Zoom with Sheila and Michelle, and they shared with me the vision of the show and where it was going. And then I shared with them, well, this is what's on my plate. Is there any way that you can work around it? Because if you can't, it's kind of a no-starter. And if you can, then, let's continue the conversation. And so they were like, yes, we can work around it. Absolutely. We'll make it work. And so, and we have the brilliant Julie Carruthers, who is the other executive producer on our show, who's really doing a lot of the scheduling. And I said, okay, we'll run it past the other people, who have to say yes, and let me know. So the next day they called my agent and said, yeah, we can make it work. And then we continued the conversation from there, closed the deal. And I wanted to be a part of this because of its historical nature. I spent 15 years on As the World Turns, and oftentimes the only black actor. So having this, this black family be the central family for the show, having a multitude of black talent, not just on camera, but behind the scenes as well, heads of departments, designers, etc. I was like, this is a part of history, and I need to be a part of it. So that's my story.
Mine, well, my agent actually, a little birdie had told her over the summer that the show had gotten greenlit. And, she did her manager's job of keeping the dream alive. And she's like, I feel it in my bones, it's yours. I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. And then sure enough, casting comes around. I get 2 small scenes. So I don't know the script or everything behind it. I'm just excited that I might get a job, right? And be a working actor. And so I put my 2 scenes down. Next thing, I get the day after, they're like, do you have any of your soap stuff on tape? Well, it had been years. And I was like, no, but I'm not tech savvy, but I'm gonna figure this out. And I quickly, because normally it takes me hours, within like 30 minutes, I had pieced some stuff together, sent it over, and they were like, okay, great. And that was it for like 3 weeks. I was like, that's it? And then I got the call that I booked it. I was like, oh my God, yes. And still, I didn't know the magnitude of the show, right? And what they were trying to present to the audience. And I finally got a phone call from Julie Carruthers and Sheila Ducksworth. And, they're talking to me and they're like, okay, all we can tell you is your top 3. Because I didn't know that either, especially in a soap. It's 20 contract roles, 20, recurring roles. I had no idea what I was really signing up for. And then I speak to them and they were like, just so you know, your top 3. I was like, well, who else got it? I'm like, oh my God, wait. And it was probably 3 days in that I realized how big this was gonna be, right? And what it was gonna do for the African-American community, for television history. And I was like, whoa, this is so much bigger than I had planned. And my life is probably gonna change after this. But I was so excited. Like once I got all the information, I'm like, this is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And as you said, both of us joined shows that were already, speeding
Well into,
trains.
right.
Exactly. So starting this and building it from the ground up, where you actually have an influence in, your character and where you live. Like even on the sets, we first arrived in the Dupree living room, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But just like little details like, oh no, we would not have that cup and saucer. You know what I mean? It's like, no, and the tea service should be this.
Or the
You
little
know,
purse stand,
and
right?
the
We
purse
don't put
stand-
our purses on the floor.
or the purse stand in the country club.
Right,
The
right.
first day in the country club, I was like, I need a purse table, and they're like, what? You know what I mean? It's like, yes, no, African American women, we don't put our purses on the floor. No. So little things like that, and it's just been thrilling, really, really thrilling.
It really has, yeah. And to build a character from the ground up, right? And you're bringing everything. And obviously, I'd love to play her till I died, and hopefully that comes way down the line. But like when I did One Life to Live, I thought I was the third Rachel Gannon. I was told there was like 9. I was like, there
Whoa.
was. So it's fun to like start creating something from nothing, and hopefully you create a character that people just absolutely fall in love with, or either love to hate, love to love, or love to hate.
Absolutely. Daphnee, Carla, and I are the only 3 veteran soap daytime drama actors. And those of us in daytime know that this is a different animal than anything else. And so not only have we been able to kind of step in and lead, but we've also been able to teach
Right.
as well.
Right.
And I think that's really important because, we were in a company where, as I said, no one had done daytime before. And so it's not just the actors learning how to do it and the pace in which it has to happen, but also production, crew, cameramen, boom operators, lighting designers, everybody's learning. And so we were definitely able to help, with our input and,
Right.
and encourage. And, I'm kind of the unofficial acting coach too. If I'm working with, the young, and I see something, I say, you might want to think about this. Why did you come in the room? Did you get what you
She's
wanted?
also a director on top of being an amazing actor. Not everybody can direct people.
Well,
There's that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, which is true. So that experience brings to it as well. So yeah, it's great being the vets.
Yes. I always tell everybody soaps are a well-oiled machine. It is a different beast. You're doing 70 to 100 pages a day versus, traditional television is 70 pages for the week. And, if it's a half hour, you have like 3 days to rehearse and then tape. And if you are on 1 hour, you're doing like 5 pages a day. This is on a different level.
Yeah, it's a whole different level.
Yeah.
It's a whole different level. We met.
We met, exactly. And
We
it
met,
really,
and it was
from day
on.
one, it just was this amazing, like, melting of this family. And I felt like I knew her, lived with her, loved her already, right? And I think that with Carla Mosley and Clifton Davis as well. Honestly, everybody.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
The chemistry was immediate.
Yeah.
It was immediate. We fell into family immediately.
There's tons
There's
of,
so many.
Yeah,
There's so many.
it's
I can't wait to
amazing.
watch the show. I'm serious. A lot of people read the entire, and they're like, do you read the entire scripts? There's so many scripts. I'm like, first of all, no. Who has time to read the entire script? I pull my scenes and I do my story. But that also affords me the opportunity when I watch the show
To be a fan.
to get pulled into it myself. So I'm looking forward
Me
to,
too.
learning and discovering things along with the audience.
Right. Everything that I possibly could. I did walk in and say, I am not a veteran, I am still a student. Because I also wanted them to understand that just because you have this job, don't get comfortable, right? You work hard to keep it. But But we just gave the gentleman who plays my son, I gave him my little tricks of the trades on how to memorize. So it's a lot. It's pages and pages and pages of dialogue, and then not little it's like chunk. So I gave him a little tip the other day because he was like, "Oh my God, like my brain is exploding." I'm like, if you just do a little bit every day versus trying to like learn it all in 2 days before you shoot, and then you have that anxiety because you're like, do I have it? It's familiar when you read it every day, just for a little bit, and then you hone in, the day or two before. And I feel like he took that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll piggyback on that student bit that you shared. I was talking with one of the actors the other day and share with them, I continue to be a student and learn on every single project that I do. And I also share with them that, my trajectory has always been a multitasker. When I was on As the World Turns, I was on Law and Order, and I was on Broadway, and I was doing movies, and I was doing other primetime television while I was on the show. And I was like, and there's the opportunity to do that, but you have to be on your game, and you have to continue to study. I was like, I was on As the World Turns, and I was still going to acting classes. You know what I mean? Because it's just because you're here does not mean you have
You're
arrived.
done. Right.
You have not arrived.
Right.
I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Most people know I spent 8 years. I was gone for 5 years. I was lured back for 2 weeks that turned into 7 years. And, it really was. And because I had the opportunity to continue to work in other genres, really made it, it wasn't golden handcuffs like you hear where you're just trapped. And I give so much credit to Doug Marlin and Robert Calhoun, who was the executive producer, for them affording their actors the opportunity to continue to work in other arenas, because I think they knew, because they both came from the theater, what keeps actors alive and active and growing and on your show. Yeah.
Well, honestly, we've talked about the amount of work that you have to do. It's like you're getting paid to go to school, essentially, right? Like the way my brain now can memorize, I literally can look at something in 5 minutes and have it down. But if I didn't have those years of learning 60 pages a day, I can't say I'd be that on point. But yeah, I always laugh at my first day on Passions. I had my first 60 pages. I was like, I'm getting fired. And then we get on set and we do the first scene. And it was one take. They're like, great, moving on. I'm like, moving on? I'm getting fired, right? But thank God it worked out.
Yes. Fasten your seatbelts because it is going to be a bumpy ride.
It's juicy, it's fun, it's vibrant. It's definitely not your traditional soap. There's a tone to traditional soaps. We are not that.
Yes, indeed. It's not your grandmother's soap opera.
Exactly.
That's what I like to say.